I want to welcome you to the Pro Mindset Podcast. The Pro Mindset Podcast is all about diving into the headspace that results in championship performance. High-performing athletes, winners, have this mental flow and have a positive headspace for their performances and success. Join me, Craig Domann, sports attorney and NFL agent, on this podcast. I will interview pro athletes, college athletes, football coaches, and sports personalities. Together, we can discover how you can get in the flow and have your own pro mindset. Today on Pro Mindset Podcast, I have a guest who has the unique experience of starting every game in the history of the AAF. He's played in the NFL. He's played in the AFL. He's now currently the starting center for the St. Louis franchise of the XFL, Brian Folkerts, from Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas, Division II school. So, Brian, I want to welcome you to the show, and I want you to kind of walk us through your history and your journey of professional football.
Yep, so I was at college at Washburn, a little Division II school in Kansas, and from there I went to the New Orleans Saints. Was with them in OTAs and training camp and got cut there, and from there, I went to the Arena Football Leagues and was with the San Jose SaberCats, playing O-line and fullback down there. Then I got a rookie minicamp, just a tryout invitation with the Carolina Panthers. So I left the Arena League and went to that little tryout and managed to get signed out of there. I think they signed 5 guys out of that camp that didn't have contracts already. So I was fortunate enough to get a chance with Carolina and managed to stick there for 2.5, 3 years. From there, I went to the 49ers, then to the Rams, and then back to Carolina a year later after the Rams. And then last year, I played in the AAF for the San Antonio Commanders. And this year, I'm playing in the XFL for the Battlehawks in St. Louis. So it's been a wild ride. I've been in 3 or 4 different leagues and over the course of 6 or 7 years, and been all over the country playing ball.
Okay, Brian, so you've been an Ichabod, a SaberCat, a Saint, a Panther, a Commander, and now a Battlehawk?
You got it.
Holy smokes, dude. Okay, so Brian is a interior offensive lineman that has spent most of your career as a center. Kind of walk through for the audience. Everybody's watching in the Super Bowl last weekend, and they're watching Jimmy G and they're watching Patrick Mahomes, and I doubt if very many fans could even name who the starting centers were for the Chiefs and the 49ers. What is your contribution to the offense? How valuable is the center position? And what are your primary responsibilities?
So the center position, we're kind of the ringleaders of the circus out there. We're directing the traffic and getting all our assignments right and telling everyone what to do. Getting our protections. We're seeing blitzes and seeing different fronts coming at us. And our job is to put the players around us in the best position to succeed. I'd say it's the most valuable position on the offense after the quarterback. We're just getting everyone on track, making sure things go right out there.
Well, I can't disagree with you. In talking to many, front office people and coaches in the NFL over the years, the center position is very unheralded, but it's very critical to the offense because you guys set the protections so that the quarterback has time to throw the ball, and you call the blocking schemes so that the running back can actually look good run the ball. So without you guys making those calls, it might look more like a middle school football game with the running backs just trying to make it on their own and the quarterback running for his life.
Yep, you got it.
So you just had a birthday last month. You just hit the big 30. For some of us, that's really young. But for NFL players and professional football players, 30 is kind of a big number because, teams start looking at you a little bit differently when you hit the big 30. What's been the secret to success for you in terms of longevity to be able to play as long as you have for as many organizations and leagues as you've had?
I think the keys to my success and my long career is just my mental preparation and focus. I've always been a guy that prides myself on, knowing what to do and how to do it. And also, you got to take care of your body. That's probably just as important as doing the right things on the field so you're not getting hurt. But then also, when you're off the field, you got to take care of your body, eat right, exercise. My wife, she does yoga and bar, and I always slip in a class here and there with her and, keep my flexibility up. But, you just got to take care of your body off the field and make sure you're in good positions on the field. And I've just been fortunate enough to keep hanging around these locker rooms and keep in the fight.
No question about it. One of the things that I've always admired about you and your journey has been how much you have to love the game to do what you've done. Because I remember your rookie year, you forgot to mention that you were with the Buccaneers for a minute.
Yeah, okay, I was there for like a half a week or so.
Yeah. So when you're in a situation, and there's a lot of young guys like this, where they get their opportunity in the NFL, and the first time they try, it doesn't work out. And I remember you calling me and saying, "Hey, Craig, I have an opportunity to go to this Arena League team. What should I do?" And I think my answer was something to the effect of, if you really love football and you're not worried about the money, but you're worried, you want to focus on, making a career, then go. And you went.
Yep.
And then it wasn't too much time later that, you had an opportunity to go to Carolina and they signed you and you had a nice little career in Carolina. But I would say that most guys, when they had that decision, probably they might have made a different decision than you made. Mm-hmm. How would you describe your passion for football?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think a lot of young guys, walking into the NFL as a rookie is a hell of a deal because you come from being the big dog on campus and now you're at the bottom of the totem pole, and you kind of get a reality check when you get there. You got to really love the game if you're going to be willing to push through some adversity. You gotta really believe in yourself, and you got to be really willing to fight for it. And that's what I did. I was like, I kind of swimming around trying to learn center in New Orleans my first year after playing left tackle all college, and I kind of didn't quite have the hang of it, or at least not up to the NFL standards. And I just knew that if I could get the swing of things, I know I could prove myself more. So I just wanted to keep chasing it. And I hate seeing guys give up on their dreams, and that's just something I'm not about. So I just I'm going to pursue it until the wheels fall off. And that's why I'm still playing today. I love the game, and I love the locker room, the camaraderie there, and you can't find that outside of the football world. You really can't. I've tried it. I've been out of the NFL for 2 years now, and I've been messing around flipping houses, and you just don't get the excitement and the brotherhood that you get in the locker rooms and in the practices and games. So I just love the game. I'm gonna keep going. I'm getting up there now. I'm 30, so I'm getting ready to check into the retirement home in the NFL. But I just have a passion for the game and just love to play.
Well, what's interesting is you and your lovely wife got married a handful of years ago, and Luke Keepley and his wife came to your wedding, and Luke, just announced his retirement, a month or so ago from the Carolina Panthers, and he's 29 years old. So, some guys, and of course they've got the luxury of maybe having $50 million in the bank. It's a lot easier to walk away from the game and find brotherhood in something else, right? Yeah,
definitely. I actually just reached out to him the night that it was breaking. I wasn't sure if it was true. I was like, hey, I heard you're stepping away. I was just kind of talking to him for a little while, and he'd say, the time's right. And he's a great dude, super high character. He's one of the best teammates I've ever played with. And to see somebody like that walk away, he's got to be moving on to something bigger and better. And I wish him the best. But like you said, the money in the bank account does change things when you don't have to you don't have to work for the rest of your life, and you don't have to take those big hits or deal out the big hits that he was dealing out. I'm sure he'll be successful with whatever he does next.
No question about it. Brian, one of the things that I've also, seen with you is that you've continued to grow as you've worked through your NFL career. And what I mean by that is when you came into the league, you weren't ready to play center and understand the sophistication of the calls, blocking protections and whatnot, coming from D2 and coming from playing left tackle where it was like everybody in the stadium knew who you had to block most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Most guys, and there's a lot of players, it doesn't matter if you're in D2, D3, D1, FCS, it doesn't matter, that they come to the NFL and their football IQ, a lot of times because they are changing positions, isn't what it needs to be able to let their athleticism take over. But a lot of times in those situations, they don't make it, and they, unfortunately, just quit. Where in your case, you kept fighting through it, and you finally got to a place where an offensive line coach, John Matsko, believed in you. Now, when you were playing for him, you probably didn't think he did, but I can guarantee you he did, because if he didn't, you wouldn't have been there.
Definitely.
So talk about the fact that once you get out of college, regardless of if you're at Alabama or Clemson, or it doesn't matter where you're at, what the gap is between where you're at in college and what you got to do in the pros, and what kind of mindset you have to continue to learn so you can be competitive and successful in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a great point you hit on there, Craig. I heard a quote recently, I think it was by Kobe, with all the Kobe news lately. He said everyone has the willingness to win. That's never a question. Everyone wants to do good, everyone wants to win. But not everybody has the willingness to prepare to win. And that's really why Kobe was so great, he was a gym freak, he loved to put in the extra time and extra hours, and that's why he was so great. He was an overachiever. And I was the same way. I had to, my first year in New Orleans, I was just kind of swimming in the playbook. There's a big learning curve. No matter who you are, like you said, Alabama or Washburn, going up to the NFL, there's going to be a learning curve no matter who you are. Just based on the sophistication of the offense, and how many checks and reads and, safety adjustments and all this for every play. But one thing that really helped me my first year in Carolina was, I basically took a mentality of, I'm not trying to hang out with the guys or make, all these friends in training camp or anything. I'd go to my room after each practice, or, in training camp at night when we're in the dorms, and I would just sit there and draw plays, because I figured out that was the best way that I learned how to learn. And I knew if I could draw a play and know everyone's assignment around me, then I would truly understand it, rather than just knowing what I had to do on a certain play. Because as soon as you know everyone else's stuff around you, the game starts slowing down, and you know what to expect, or my fullback will be reading this, or when he plays out, I should go in, and things like that. The game starts slowing down. So for me, the biggest learning curve was just learning how to prepare for a practice and how to prepare for a game. And I couldn't have had a better teacher than John Matsko with that. He was super detail oriented with us. He demanded perfection, or he was gonna let us feel it. He'd dig into us pretty good if we ever had a mental error. We'd be in some high stress walkthroughs. You'd be walking on eggshells going in, and you have a good walkthrough, you're riding a high on the way out. But if you had a bad walkthrough and Matsko's grilling you, and now all of a sudden you don't know ball and you don't know what you're doing out there. But really, the hardest part is the mental side of the NFL. And once you can figure out how to prepare to win at the NFL level, that's when you start seeing dudes be successful. I've seen a lot of highly talented, Alabama and Clemson players wash out or never even make a team, just because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know their rules, or they were just inconsistent with the playbook. And, you get I thought it was these type of rules, or I thought it was this kind of play. And, dudes you can't earn the coach's trust if you don't know what to do every play. And, you know, the more they trust you, the more he's going to put you in, and the more chances you're in there and you know what you're doing, the likelihood of you succeeding is going up and up. So I think that was kind of my pivotal point was my focus on preparing to succeed each day. And that's what kind of put me over the edge from my first year to my second year.
Well, let's talk about this. When you really don't know the playbook 100%, you know it 99%, then you can only typically go as far as your athleticism will take you, because the coach is looking at you as an athlete and how competent you can be as a player with your physical tools. Knowing that you're going to make a mistake here and there, he just doesn't know when, and because he can't trust you, a lot of times it might help you make the roster, but it's not going to get you on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Whereas the guy that knows the playbook so darn well that he could coach, he could run the position meetings when the coach decides not to show up. He can go out on the field, and when he's watching the ones, the twos, or threes go, and he's taking mental reps, he knows when his teammate made a mistake and what he should have done compared to what he did.
Yeah, definitely hit the nail right on the head there.
Okay, so if you know what the heck you're doing so much so that you could coach it, you could teach it, and you can identify when one of your teammates makes a mistake, the trust that you're going to have with your coach is going to go through the roof. And now they stop focusing on your physical limitations. They start focusing on the consistency and reliability and dependability you have as a player.
Definitely.
Right? Okay, so let's walk through. I don't think I've ever done this with anybody. It just popped in my head. Let's go back to during the season in the NFL, and you've got Sunday games. We're not talking about Thursday games and Monday games. You got a Sunday game. Walk through for the audience what you do every single day to mentally be prepared for Sunday, starting with Monday, in terms of watching film and taking care of your body.
Monday is the first day after a game, so we're going to come in. We're going to do a little weightlifting or cardio, and we'll pop into the meeting rooms and we'll watch the game, play by every single play and do all corrections across the board. Everyone's taking notes and writing down anything they did wrong or any busts they had. And that'll kind of be your focus points for the week. You got to keep improving each week, or you can't be making the same mistake week to week. So you'll get what you got to work on your Mondays. And Tuesdays, typically the off day for most NFL teams. So that's really your day to get your extra mental reps. Watch them start the early scout, take care of your body, get a massage, or do a yoga class or something on the side. Whatever you got to do to get your body right, that's on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we're full force into the prep for the following Sunday's game. So we're watching film. Our mornings start about 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Maybe earlier if you got the first lift, and you'll go till about 5 or 6 at night most days. You'll do weightlifting, meetings, walkthroughs, practice, more meetings, probably another couple walkthroughs if you're in Carolina. We did about 4 or 5 a day, so it's just constant preparation. Long day Wednesday, full pads also. Thursday, they might take the pads off for that practice, but it's going to be another long day. You got your morning meetings, walkthroughs, practice. You're just watching a lot of film, watching a lot of the practice reps. Coaches are showing you their favorite rushers or, what moves this guy has and all that. And as you get farther and farther into the week, the mental details just got to start, getting laser focused, and, you start getting a familiarity with their blitzes and what things start looking like when they got a pressure or a stunt on the D-line here. Anyway, so you just get the kind of the mental picture, starts to clean up on Thursdays. Friday, they call it Fast Friday. They just want a fast, clean, low collision type practice. You're expected to be 100% on mental focus there. No errors, no missed assignments. Just a fast, clean practice. You get in, meetings, practice, and you're out the door by 12 or 1 o'clock. Our O-line coach, a lot of the teams I've played for, the O-line coach will give you a little quiz or a little test each week on Fridays, and they'll be due Saturday morning. So you basically got a half a day on Friday to draw out everyone's role for about 20 plays versus the fronts and the blitzes we expect to see that week. Then Saturday morning we come in, we do a walkthrough, turn in our little quizzes. And in Carolina, where I spent most of my career, we put guys up on a little projector. You put your little blitz quiz or your little, your play quiz for the week. You'd install it for the O-line and running backs, everyone sitting in on the blitz meetings. Basically held everyone accountable, put you in front of the group, let everyone know if you knew what you were talking about or if you're just kind of one of those guys sweating and trying to stutter his way through it so you could hide whatever. But
that's where the coach figures out that somebody maybe doesn't know the protections or the blitzes as much as they should. And
yep.
that might, the coach might look, let it slide one day, 1 week, one game. But if there's a consistent pattern of unpreparedness by a player, it's not going to take very long in the NFL because nobody likes to lose and nobody likes to get fired for them to switch that guy out.
Right, and exactly. And there might be, two O-linemen kind of on the bubble of whether they'll dress or not. Maybe whoever has a better week preparing or, has a great presentation on their page of blitzes they do or whatever, that might be the deciding factor of who's going to be up that week or who'll be inactive with no shoulder pads on the sideline on game day.
No doubt. Okay, so I've heard this quote so many times. It basically is, if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're not necessarily getting ahead. What is the one or two things you did game week? Because, like, when you were at Carolina, Ron Rivera is an excellent coach. Washington's going to find that out. And they demanded a lot of you guys. And there was a lot of walkthroughs, as you mentioned. Now, some coaches don't even do full pads during the week. The Panthers would do it at least once a week. So with that being said, what did Brian Folkerts do over and above what everyone else did? And I'm not saying you did 10 or 15 things more, but one or two things that you had to do to make sure you were ready to go.
I think number one is, I was a big film guy. I liked logging in the extra hours. For my first year there, I had so many rookie duties that, I was the donut guy and I had to decorate the O-line room, every holiday or changing of the seasons. I was constantly up there after hours anyways. So on our fast Fridays, after everyone would go home, I'd do whatever I had to do that rookie year, change the coffee filters, and I'd just stay in there and watch film and do my blitz sheets, do my player scouts. I'd just be sitting up there for like 2 or 3 hours by myself after those other dudes left. I think that was one thing I did above the call or, whatever they were asking. And another thing is whenever it would come down to those, those quizzes we do every week, I'd have guys texting me or calling me and saying, hey, what are you doing here? And, I'd just be kind of one of the voices of reason and, explaining everyone's roles on our cards. I'd kind of organize a little, kind of like a little group meetup, and we'd all fill them out together if we needed to, or, if someone just needed a quick answer for number 2 or whatever, they'd give me a call. And, I kind of gained my edge through preparation because I was never the best athlete. I think I've been the smallest lineman on every NFL team I've been on, or the second smallest guy. So if I was going to have a chance, my mental capacity had to make up for whatever I lacked physically. So that was kind of where I gained my edge, was through preparation.
No doubt about it. And I think the other part of it that happened to you, Brian, was, and this happens to a lot of guys that make it and that play for a while, is they recognize their physical limitations, but they don't let their physical limitations limit their careers. You just recognize it so that you can work with it, because you didn't have 35-inch arms. You were not 6'7". You didn't have those kind of physical traits that some guys did, that the teams wanted to make it, but because they weren't prepared, because they didn't have the mental capacity, because they weren't consistent, they were home sitting on the couch on Sundays watching you play.
Yep, you're exactly right there.
But I think it's a tremendous mental step to recognize your physical limitations, but don't let them limit your career.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like you said, I think I had the shortest arms on most of the teams. I still get coaches that bug me about that even today. But you know, with a good technique and knowing where to put your body, you can get yourself in good position and kind of make up that extra inch or two that I lack on my arm length or the, you know, my height being not as tall as everybody. You know, I just say I got natural leverage. You know, I get under people's pads. So, you know, you got things that scouts look for, and then you got things that can kind of work around or make up for those. So there's always an answer if you want to find a way. It's out there.
Well, one of the things that I can tell you is that scouts look for one thing, coaches look for another thing. And a lot of times the guys that look prettier, the scouts fall in love with, and they get drafted higher. But at the end of the day, it's the guys that the coaches like are ultimately the ones that make the roster.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, it's the coaches that are in there discussing who's going to make the team and who they like and who they trust. You know, at the end of the day, you know, the scouts that are going from college to college, they get you in the door, but the O-line coach is who keeps you in the house. So, you know, if you're not impressing the coaches, you're going to get the quick boot.
No question. That's a great way to frame it too, because you know the scouts do get you in the door, and the coaches keep you in the door. And I think that what a lot of players do is they get so caught up into what do I got to do to maximize my draft stock. They don't make the transition after the draft's over into how I can be the best football player so that you can actually build a career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, you know, there's definitely two parts or two phases of football. You know, as soon as you're done with college, you know, you got the athletic part where you got to get ready for the combine, and you got to be a great jumper and a great bench presser, and you got to run fast. But then after that, you can cancel all that and forget it, you know, because that's not what shows up on film. You got to be a great ball player, and that's what'll keep you around.
Well, one of my former player clients is currently an offensive line coach in the NFL today, and I interviewed Chris Cooper a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about the fact that a lot of the coaches anyway that go to the combine don't really pay much attention to the drills and pay attention to the times because they care more about a player's ability to be graceful in whatever he's doing, do it under control, and not be, you know, like, for example, even when you run the 40, you're gritting your teeth, and you can't play football like that.
Yep.
And so the 40, obviously, offensive linemen never run 40 yards in a game, but just the act of how you run the 40 is more important than the time you run the 40 in.
Yeah, definitely. In the L drill and the pro agility, you know, they'll show your body control, and you're not, you know, you don't want to be flopping around out there and stumbling and falling. And they'll see that and they say, well, this guy can't pull on power for us, or, you know, or this linebacker is not going to be able to make that cut on a wide zone and get the back, you know. So I think you got a good point there about, you know, you got to look smooth and, you know, be a ball player just through all those drills that are, you know, more testing your times and your strength, but, you know, really you just got to be a good ball player, be an athlete, you know, just look calm and smooth, and, you know, that'll show up for you.
Okay, so Brian, you're 30 years old. At one point in time, you were a rookie in the NFL. Knowing what you know today, if you could go back and coach up yourself from when you were a rookie, what's the one or two things you would share with your 22, 23-year-old self?
I would say number one is just relax, calm down. Don't be nervous. Don't be kind of antsy out there. You know, I think when I first got in, I was just so set on trying to, like, blast somebody or knock them back off the ball that, you know, sometimes I'd whiff and get, you know, chewed out in meetings. And, you know, you just got to be calm out there. Number two, you got to prepare. You know, you just got to log the hours. It's what it takes. You know, you don't you're not just going to pick up a new language overnight. You know, you gotta put the man hours in, and you got to prepare mentally. You know, mentally is the most important side of football. You know, they say 90% of the plays are won before the snap, just knowing what to do and how to do it, and the rest of it will kind of sort itself out. So I'll just say, you know, prepare and just stay calm, and, you know, let the chips fall where they may. You know, don't worry about, you know, everyone plays the cut game in their head, or, you know, they figure out, you know, we're only keeping 9 or 10 guys, you know, where do I sit? You know, you just got to focus on what you can control. You know, just show up every day with good attitude, good effort on the field, and then prepare at nights for the next day.
Well, one of the biggest challenges for rookies is they start doing roster management, playing, you know, Joe GM, and trying to figure out how in the heck am I going to make the team when there's 16 offensive linemen on most 90-man rosters, and most of the line coaches keep 9 and they dress 7 and they keep 2 on the practice squad, and they can't see a situation where the team could cut 5 or 6 other guys and still keep them. So yeah. I'm sure you dealt with that a little bit. How does that adversely affect your performance when you start focusing on the cut down days coming up?
Yeah, you know, I think it just kind of clouds you up mentally, you know, whether you realize it or not. If you're just, you know, during all your off time just stressing about that, you know, if you're focusing on that, you're not focusing on what you need to be. If you could be taking that time to get a better picture of this certain play, or, you know, or what's expected of you, whatever position you play. You know, if you're too worried about getting cut, you know, you're going to be playing nervous out there, or you'll think you'll have to make a really good play, and you might kind of jump your read, or you know, just kind of clouds you up mentally. So, you know, you really just got to let all that go and just focus on what you can control. You know, you're not the GM, so you just got to bring your brand every day and hope they like it.
Okay, Brian, we're going to kind of shift gears for a moment. You're playing in the XFL. What is the biggest difference in the rules between the NFL and the XFL?
There's a few. My favorite rule change here is our overtime rules. We do like a NHL or like a soccer shootout style overtime. You know, we basically it's like a 2-point conversion. You know, both teams are going to run best of 5. You know, we'll take one play, we'll try a 2-point conversion, and then they'll take one, and you know, if we get 3 and they haven't scored yet, the game's over. You know, just like a, you know, World Cup or hockey style shootout.
How does that impact the offensive coordinator? Does that mean that he has to have, you know, 20 red zone short yardage plays going into the game in the event of OT? Because let's say, for example, you have a handful of short yardage or red zone type plays earlier in the game. You don't want to necessarily run the same play you've already run. So does that put pressure on your coordinator to have a lot more of those types of plays?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. You know, I'm sure he's got to save a few in his back pocket, you know, for the overtime. Give them a look they haven't seen yet, cause a little chaos. So I'm sure they gotta prepare for a couple extra looks, just for the overtime alone. But yeah, you know, you got to keep them guessing. So, you know, I'm sure that's something they think about. And you know, hopefully we never have to get into an overtime situation, but if we do, I'm sure the fans will love it.
Now that sounds like fun. So continue with the second thing you were going to mention.
Another rule change is we have a double forward pass in this league. But it's kind of not exactly as it sounds. You know, you can't, you know, throw it 20 yards downfield and then he throws it again. Really, that rule for the offense is just like we can throw a little swing pass to the running back, and he can throw it again forward as long as he hasn't passed the line of scrimmage yet.
So the first
kind
pass
of like a rule.
It can be a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage.
Yes. But then the last main rule change is our kickoff rules. The receiving team and the kicking team I think they line up on like the 35-yard line on the minus 35 where we're kicking it to. And they all have to stand still until our kicker he kicks it, and then nobody can move until the returner catches the ball, and then they can go once he catches it. So the kickoff will look a lot different.
Is the kicker back on the 35 or wherever on the plus side?
Yeah, he's on the plus side of the field, wherever they normally kick from. I don't know if it's the 35 or the 40 or whatever it was. But yeah, so he'll be way back there, and like the whole kicking team and the whole return team will be like 20 or 30 yards in front of him.
What happens if he doesn't get it all the way there? What if he like muffs the kick?
Yeah, I think there's actually like a penalty for that. Like, I know if he like kicks it out of the back of the end zone, it's a penalty, and they get the ball at like the 35 or something. It's like a 15-yard penalty from a touchback if you kick it out the back. So they want the guys to be returning them, but they're also trying to, make the kickoff and kickoff return game a little safer by taking the huge collisions out. You get a 40-yard head of steam at somebody, you're going to have a big hit. But if you're already down there and they're only 5 yards away from you, you can't really get a huge hit on somebody. So you won't see as many, concussions on the kickoff and all that.
Well, one of the things I've noticed, in watching many NFL games in person, how violent the kickoff really is, especially before they outlawed the wedge, because they really had guys on the 46-man roster that were fast, tough, crazy, and, linebacker types that, weighed 255, that their whole job was to be a wedge buster.
Yeah, well, shoot, I dealt with that personally.
Oh, those collisions are
Yeah, I was on the wedge on the kickoff return team in Carolina there for 3 years, and that was our coaching point, was to run. Don't slow down, don't adjust. If they go off your path, our return man should time it just right so that he won't be able to touch them. The NFL, they even had a commercial this past season that was on Thursdays or whatever. They're just running their NFL ads, and they're like, the NFL is making the game safer. We outlawed the wedge block. There was actually a clip of like me and Ed Dixon running a return, and for the Panthers, and they like circled us and they put a big X through us on their commercial. We had a good laugh about that, but yeah, they're trying to take those big hits out. I used to deal with those linebackers that would just come down and only try to blast you and not really care about the play at all, just bust up that wedge.
Well, hey, Brian,
so,
I want to thank you for joining me today.
All right, appreciate it, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Brian, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Pro Mindset. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. 5 stars, of course. You can follow us on our website, promindsetpodcast.com, or on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Pro Mindset Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you the next time.